Thank you. Dr. Kevin Stolarick of the Martin Prosperity Institute, with Experience Renewal Solutions, an agricultural think tank led by Doug Valerie, and the Ontario Table Project, which is me, collaborated on the following message. If every household in Ontario spent $10 a week on local food, we'd have $2.4 billion in our economy by the end of 1 year. And as that money circulates, it grows to $3.6 billion, and it creates 10,000 new jobs. Whoa. Aren't they powerful messages? What it really says is where we spend our money matters. Where we put it, it matters. You know, it's interesting that we spend so much time and energy trying to figure out what we're going to do with our lives, how we're going to make money, and we spend very little time thinking about what we're going to do with it once we have it. You know, we hear stories about people who have won the lottery and then they end up being destitute and penniless. Well, how does that happen? People that have had very successful and prosperous careers end up retiring penniless. How does that happen? There is no power in money in and of itself. The power is how you spend it. $10 a week times 52 weeks equal $2.4 billion. Now there's some power. Interesting that we use food as a medium. We live in an international food world, and our access to all foods at all times couldn't be stronger. And yet our food culture and our sense of family and community couldn't be weaker. When I was growing up, every square inch of our property was dedicated to growing food, right? If we didn't grow it or make it, we knew who did. The people who worked on farms, they were my neighbors. And they would come home from work and they would bring bushels and baskets and they would share with us. And we would go in the kitchen and we would can, we would preserve, we would bake. Baking was my favorite because then I knew that we would go to a neighbor and we would share what we have. We used food to nurture the sick, to celebrate a birth, a wedding. We used food to trade, to barter. Heck, there wasn't a fence that needed to be mended in our neighborhood that didn't end with a darn good meal. Food took a group of houses and it made a community out of it. That's power. And then I grew up and I can't tell you, I was absolutely appalled at what some of the parents were feeding their children. Wow. And very few had meals around the dinner table. And cooking was optional. I can't imagine that. That's like saying brushing your teeth is optional. And I'm not talking about spending 6 to 8 hours in the kitchen trying to make a gourmet meal. I'm talking about taking the 10 to 15 minutes that's necessary to take some good food and turn it into a nutritious meal. That's what I'm talking about. We need to feed our children nutritious meals because they need to grow strong and have healthy minds. We need to eat nutritious meals because as adults we need to maintain our health. I believe there's a direct relationship between what we put in our bodies and the state of our bodies. And I'm talking about diabetes, obesity, cancers, heart disease, all of those learning disabilities that the kids have in school today. I believe that there's a direct relationship there. You know, my grandmother used to say, if you didn't eat a bushel of dirt by the time you were 30, you were not going to live a long, healthy life. And you know what she really meant was the closer you eat to your food source, the healthier you're going to get. So as kids, we would run out to the garden if we were hungry. We'd pull a carrot, we'd wipe the dirt off on our pants, and we'd eat it. You know, I was notorious for stealing sugar from the pantry to run out to the rhubarb patch. I don't know, was there dirt on it? I don't know. No one really cared. We were just really happy that we were eating good food. Then one day I was asked to be a food writer, and I was given a weekly food column, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'll write about farmers and county fairs and harvest celebrations, even the sexy food that I found at the farmer's market. This is what I'm going to write about, and the reason is because then I could connect all of these wonderful parents with the healthiest source of food that they could possibly find. And maybe I could make a difference. And I've been doing that for almost 20 years. I've been writing about local food for almost 20 years. And so when you do that, people start to ask you, where's your book? And I thought, well, all right, I know what I'll do. I had this idea. If I write a story of a farmer with every recipe, I could continue my work to connect people to the greatest source of local food. The book is called Niagara Cooks, From Farm to Table. And it was incredibly successful. But it had the original $10 message. And that is, if everyone in Niagara spent $10 a week on local food, we'd have $453 million in our community. But Dr. Louis Soroka from Brock University, he went one step further. And he said for every $10 we spend on local food or a local independently owned and operated store, $8 stays in our community. For every $10 we spend at a non-independently owned and operated store, $2 stays in our community. Okay, I can almost hear the connections going on. It's like the blood that drips from a cut. Our money bleeds out of our communities. We deserve to be more prosperous. Niagara Cooks went on to be incredibly successful, won many international awards. It was Canadian bestseller, and it won Best Local Food Cookbook in Canada from Gourmand World Cookbook Awards, and we were silver medalists in Best Local Food Cookbook in the world. We were really pleased about that. But people would email me and they would say, well, where do I get asparagus in August or strawberries in November? And I think, oh, geez. So book number 2, book number 2 was Niagara Cooks, A Seasonal Attitude. And yes, the chapters were spring, summer, winter, fall. In the hopes that I could instill some seasonality into our food world. And you know, the distribution was strategically local. I went to the farmers and I said, would you sell the book? Because I wanted them to make the profit off their own story. And they said, yes, of course we'll sell the book. We're in the book. And so they all started to sell the book. And independent stores saw how prosperous and how successful they were, and so they wanted to sell it. And so we had this huge network of people that were selling the book. In 4.5 years, we sold 25,000 copies and generated over $250,000 in profits for agricultural retailers and independent stores. So we're really proud about that. That's power. That's the power of money. All right, so book number 3, I felt maybe we had a trilogy going on here. Niagara Cooks, The 100-Mile Garden. But then we went to calculate the 160-kilometer territory, and we thought, whoa, this is like almost the entire province of Ontario, so we had to change the name. It's now called the Ontario Table, the best food from across the province. And you know the message. I led with it tonight. $10 a week times 52 weeks is $2.4 billion, grows to $3.6 billion, and creates 10,000 new jobs. Whoa. In less than a year and a half, we've sold 15,000 books. We've attended 85 events, gifted over $14,000 to agricultural organizations, generated over $200,000 in profits for retailers, and $7.3 million in economic activity. Now there's the power of our $10. But you know, I said we lived in an international food world, and grocery stores have stripped the seasonality out of our consciousness. International marketers have really skewed with our sense of a fair cost of food. We no longer know where our food comes from, and we certainly don't know how to buy it. But local food couldn't be easier to buy. The Ontario Table $10 Challenge is really about a 3-step process to buying local food. So let me explain it to you. The first step is to take an inventory of what you have in your kitchen right now. So yes, the fresh fruits and vegetables, if they were grown in Ontario. But don't overlook milk, eggs, butter, all dairy, chicken, fish, meat, bags, bottles, tins of things, okay? Bags of white rose cake and pastry flour, that's all Ontario. Well, you know, boxes of Sifto salt, this is Ontario, right? Tins of Unico and Primo tomatoes, they're all Ontario, right? We all know Frito-Lay potato chips, they support so many Ontario farmers. Those are the ones you buy. So step 2 is now that you have your inventory, you want to arm yourself with some resources, some great resources, so that you can grow your local food inventory. So yes, the Ontario table, I believe, is the best resource for local food because I wrote it that way. Not only is there a story of a farmer and an artisan food producer, so you know who's making the crackers, the bottles of soup, the jars, the bottles of vinegar, but the last chapter in the book is called the Ontario Pantry, and it has lists of foods that you'll find in grocery stores that are local. And then beyond that chapter, there's over 52 web resources for you to find more local food around the province of Ontario. So step 3 is to grow it. So we all have so much money that we spend on groceries every week, right? And now you know your inventory of local food within that grocery budget. So how do you buy local food? You grow that inventory by $10. You've got the resources now, so you go to the grocery store and you dig deep into those shelves and you find the local products, and that's what you buy. And when you're comfortable doing that, grow it another $10. Buying local food is about the pendulum swinging back to give us back the best bits of our life. And that's a sense of family, a sense of community, and being reconnected to the food. Okay, and then you might want to have some fun. So maybe one day you want to go out to a farmer's market. The sense of community and getting to know the people that grow your food is really exciting. You'll have a lot of fun. You might want to find a farm that you're going to go and visit. And on-farm markets are fun. They have festivals, right? You can go to a strawberry festival, a pumpkin festival. But talk about knowing where your food came from. So you go to a farm and you see the tree, you see the apple tree, you see the apple pie, and you see the bakery. And it's like, whoa. I know where this comes from. Imagine that. And don't forget the greatest resource of all, the Foodland Ontario logo. Foodland Ontario is to food what VQA is to wine. It's a promise that it's grown in Ontario. All right, so that's your 3-step process on how to buy local food. It's not about extremes. It's not about filling your kitchen with local food, and it's not about eating berries and twigs in the winter. I don't know what that is all about. It's about common sense and doing what you can, $10 at a time. So how does this create prosperity? All right, well, there's this town in California, and they decided that they wanted to see how much local food was spent in their community. So they designed these $2 local food bills, bucks, local food bucks. So as a consumer, I could go to the bank and I could buy these local food bucks, and then in turn I could go to the farmer's market and I could spend them. But at the end of the experiment, and then the farmer, at the end of the day or week, he could go to the bank and exchange his local food bucks for real cash. So this is how it worked. At the end of the experiment, they were very excited and surprised to find that it wasn't just farmers that were handing in these local food bucks at the bank, but it was small independent businesses. It was butchers, it was hairdressers, it was car repair shops. 22 independently owned and operated businesses were handing in local food bucks. So that tells me that you and I go to the farmer's market and we think we're buying a basket of peaches and a bag of potatoes. But as our money circulates in the economy, what it's really doing is we are supporting a community. Now that's power. All right, so let's have some fun. Let's play for a minute. Let's pretend that at this very moment that your farmer's market, twice as many people will shop there as ever have before. So next time you go to the farmer's market, twice as many people. So what's the farmer going to do? He's going to stand there and he's going to say, oof, okay, maybe now I can make this work. All right, but what about his production? Is he going to have to double it? Grow 3 times as much? 4 times as much? I don't know. Depends on what he's growing in his business model, right? But he's certainly going to have to grow more food. And now he's going to have to meet greater demands from all of these people. And so what are they going to ask for? For me, I want variety, so I'd like him to grow a variety of food. Maybe organic, free range, naturally grown. Maybe I want a pie, or maybe I want some jam. So the farmer has to now sort of meet all these demands. And you know that when you buy direct from the farmer, he makes a greater portion of that food dollar than he ever could from selling to a food broker or a wholesaler. So he's making more money. He's selling more, he's making more money. Maybe he wants to go organic, so his input costs are lower and he's making more money. Then what does he have to do? All right, one of two things. He either needs to hire someone to help him work on the farm, or he has to give up his off-farm job. If he gives up his off-farm job, well, either one for that matter, he's creating employment. So now there's more jobs for people who are struggling with unemployment. More people are working, more people are happy. And have you ever seen a community that's happy? It blossoms like a flower. But you know, more people are paying into a system, less people are drawing from a system. So now our towns and municipalities have healthier budgets for social services, for the swimming pools and the libraries, right? And our money just keeps circulating in the community. We talked about empty storefronts. All of a sudden, there's now new businesses in those empty storefronts because they need to support all of this new activity of buying local and the new healthy agricultural industry that's around your community. So now there are more jobs, and more people are paying into a system, and more people are able to buy houses. And if more people buy houses, then there's more taxes for the schools, more school taxes, and teachers get to keep their jobs. And maybe, this is my pet peeve, maybe they won't do that awful fundraising that the schools do. You know, I come out of the bank, and there's a wonderful student there, and she wants me to buy that awful chocolate. It is bad. It is bad. So I give them a $5 bill, and I say, keep it, please. Just keep it. But here's a fundraiser for schools. Think about this one. What if the school thought, you know what? I don't know, maybe Thanksgiving is coming. And maybe the families would like some apple pies or pumpkin pies. So they go to the farmer, and they say to the farmer, we want to do this fundraising. All the students go out, and they get orders for hundreds of apple pies and pumpkin pies. And everybody gets good food. But the school makes money, the farmer makes money, and the money stays in our community. Buying local does more for us, our happiness, our health, our families, our communities, our economy, than we could ever imagine. How are you using the power of your $10? Buy local. Thank you very much.